So yesterday I made a video about a mother who's also a pediatrician who wants to transition her 8-year-old son into a girl, and the father is strongly opposed to it. One of the points that I made in the video is how these puberty blockers and these cross-sex hormones will actually sterilize the boy, so that way when he grows up, he's not going to be able to have kids of his own one day. Once I finished my video, I came across a few other articles that were talking about a Sterilizing Children Bill that was passed in California. The bill is called the Transgender and Wellness Equality Fund, and it's also known as AB 22, and I'll go ahead and link that down below if you want to read it yourself. But the goal of the bill is to fund experimental gender transitioning procedures and surgeries for adults as well as minors. So the reason why some people are calling it the Sterilizing Children Bill is because it's been long known that if you put kids on these hormone blockers and these puberty blockers and also these cross-sex hormones, then they most likely are going to become infertile in the future. So at this point in time, the California Senate Health Committee has already voted for the bill in favor of it with a 7-to-1 vote. So the next step is the bill is going to be going to the Senate's Appropriation Committee, and if approved, then the governor is likely going to be issuing it into law, and I believe that the hearing is scheduled for tomorrow. So a lot of people that are probably in favor of this bill, they're probably just wondering, why is it that some people are against this bill in the first place? Is it that people just want a reason to infringe on other people's self-expression so that way they can express themselves? Or are people just going against the bill so that way they can assert some sort of political or religious dominance? Even if you don't agree that the bill should be stopped, I just hope that you can actually listen to the rest of this video and understand where people like me are coming from. So I think about it this way. A lot of the parents that are trying to put their kids through these treatments in order for them to change their gender, I think that a lot of them are coming from a good place of sincere empathy for their child. The thing about empathy is that if we don't base empathy on what's best for the child, then we can actually come to hurt the child in the long run. For example, I have a 6-year-old boy and he always wants ice cream for dinner. Now, I empathize with that because I would like ice cream for dinner every night as well, but I don't grant him his wish because I consider the long-term effects of giving him ice cream for dinner every night. So empathy can't be the primary factor that we use to make decisions for people. Now, if you've been following this debate for a while, you'll know that there's a large number of people who actually go through with the transition and then later want to detransition and later want family of their own, like Blair White recently said in a video.
And so people, please be very, very careful about these very, very young kids transitioning, because if I wasn't thinking about a family at 22 and, whether or not I wanted to have kids, these 14, 15, and younger year olds are definitely not. And I don't want to get super polarizing in this video. I've done a million videos about kids transitioning, but I'm just being real.
The thing about it is we have laws in place that are there to protect children from getting tattoos or smoking cigarettes or anything like that. Even if they want to, we know that later on they can come to regret it, but unfortunately it would be too late because the effects will have long-lasting or even permanent damage on their bodies. If you go back to the last video that I did, the kid that was mentioned there was 8 years old, and I have friends who have kids that are 8 years old. And what I do know about kids that are 8 years old, or even kids that are my son's age, if you give them what they want, then they could be dead in a week. We don't give 8-year-old kids what they want because we know that they're not capable of making the correct decisions. If you're familiar with how the brain kind of works, there's a region in the brain that's called the prefrontal cortex, and that part is what's used for decision making. Now, the thing about it is that it's not fully developed in people until they're in their 20s. If we know that their decision-making faculties and the critical thinking faculties aren't fully developed at such a young age, then it makes no sense to me why we would actually give them full autonomy over what they want to do to their entire body that they're not going to be able to go back on one day. If we're against 8-year-olds getting tattoos because we think that they're going to be making decisions that are going to permanently affect their body, how much more significant if we grant them permission to change their entire bodies permanently? So in my mind, this isn't about a Republican or Democrat or even a religious thing at this point, although I think that religious beliefs do help to provide a format for how we can make some of these decisions. For example, in Christianity, we're taught to love one another, but our idea of love is different than the way that a lot of people understand love today. For a lot of people today, love is primarily an emotion. And a lot of people believe that if you love someone, then you're going to let them do whatever they want to do. But a biblical understanding of love is that if you love someone, you're going to commit to them despite how you feel, and you're going to want to do what's best for them in the long run. And sometimes that's not the thing that makes them happy, and you don't give them the thing that they actually want. Now, though I don't doubt that most of the parents in these sorts of situations are well-meaning and they do really care about their child and they love their child, but I also disagree firmly that this is the best thing for the child. So even if you disagree with everything that I just said, I hope you can understand why so many of us feel like we're protecting the children. I hope you can at least understand where people like me are coming from. But the next time that you're all for this bill without giving it serious consideration, what are you going to tell yourself? What do you mean?